The world is facing a plastic crisis. Every year, more and more plastic is being produced. But less than 10% is recycled globally. So, what happens to the rest? It ends up in landfills, incinerators, or leaking into the environment, killing animals and polluting our air, soil, and especially our oceans. Roughly one garbage truck full of plastic is dumped into the ocean every minute.
It's in the food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe, and it's everywhere in the environment.
So, why are we continuing to produce so much plastic? Why is it so hard to recycle? And what are the solutions? In 2023, we produced a staggering 413.8 million metric tons of plastic. A figure that has more than doubled over the past 2 decades. To put that number into perspective, that's the weight of roughly 1 million international space stations, 3.45 million blue whales, or the equivalent of 41,000 Eiffel Towers. All this uncompressed plastic could fill up more than 500,000 Olympic swimming pools. And the problem is only getting worse.
The projections are for plastic production to double within the next 20 years, which means tripling of plastic pollution.
The biggest culprit? Packaging. It accounts for nearly 40% of all plastic use. Think plastic bottles, snack wrappers, delivery bags. Fashion is another major offender. Synthetic fibers like polyester shed microplastics every time we wash our clothes.
Plastics is actually a huge threat to human health because microplastics that are being emitted, for example, through tire wear, are everywhere.
Also Polymere sind im Blut nachweisbar, sind im Gewebe nachweisbar. Es gibt Studien, die ganz klar zeigen, dass Kunststoffe sich in Organen, auch in uns Menschen, ablagert. Es gibt Publikationen, die deuten an, dass beispielsweise im Gehirn sich doch deutlich mehr Kunststoff ablagert als in Niere und Leber.
Another big concern for human health is additional chemicals. But we'll come back to that later. So, if the problem with plastic production is so clear, why aren't companies doing more to fight it? The truth is, for many brands, plastic is simply cheap, lightweight, and profitable. It protects products, extends shelf life, and cuts shipping costs. Changing that system would mean investing in new materials, redesigning supply chains, and potentially earning less.
So as long as they have the freedom to choose, they usually go with the easiest way, which is just using single-use plastic on and on and on.
Es gibt auch viele Produkte, die ohne Kunststoffe überhaupt nicht umsetzbar sind. Auch insbesondere in der Energiegewinnung. Denken Sie an Windkraftanlagen. Ja? Windkraftanlagen, da kommen wir ohne Kunststoffe nicht mehr aus. Und das hat damit zu tun, dass Kunststoffe eben auch so leicht sind. Das heißt, alles, was im Transportwesen auf Leichtbau getrimmt ist, ist auf Kunststoff angewiesen.
So, if we need plastics for certain industries, what's the solution? Can't we just recycle it? Well, at first glance, recycling plastic seems simple. Just toss it into the right bin and it gets turned into something new, right? In reality, it's a lot more complicated. That's because there are thousands of different plastic formulations, and some can't easily be returned to their original state by melting them. Like thermosets, plastics made out of tightly cross-linked polymers, large molecules, which are the basic structure of most plastics.
Vernetzung heißt, es gibt chemische Bindung zwischen den Polymerketten. Und das bedeutet, Recycling funktioniert hier eigentlich nicht im mechanischen Sinne.
But those are usually the types of plastics that are most robust, durable, and heat-resistant, which is why they are used in aerospace, electronics, and automobiles. The next issue is that there are often chemical additives to make plastic more flexible, resistant, stronger, or even cheaper to produce.
Just in the past 10 years, the number of additives that have been invented and used has increased drastically. And I think that what we don't really realize is the fact that we have almost created this sort of monster that we don't fully control anymore. And as a result of this complexity comes the difficulty of treating it at the end of its life.
Some types, like PET used in drinking bottles and HDPE used in detergent bottles, can be more easily recycled. But often they don't make it. If they're contaminated with food, mixed with other types of plastic, or not collected properly, they're rejected and sent to landfill or incinerators.
If it is technically recyclable, but there is no infrastructure in many of the places where this plastic is put on the market, it will not be recycled. It will not even be well managed.
And then there are all these products made of multiple layers, like chip bags or coffee pots, combining plastic with aluminum or paper. These composite materials are nearly impossible to separate, and most recycling plants can't process them at all.
Instead of just focusing on recycling and saying this will solve the plastic crisis, we actually need to reduce the production in the long term.
How though? Let's look at some solutions. The obvious answer would be to find alternatives to replace plastics altogether. Think stainless steel or glass. But it is a huge challenge and could have potential impacts for the climate.
For example, moving from plastic to paper might actually reduce plastic leakage, but there are also other consequences in terms of biodiversity, water usage, in terms of utilization of soil, etc.
Die Kunststoffe haben eine sehr gute CO2-Bilanz gegenüber anderen Werkstoffen, einfach weil sie bei geringeren Temperaturen herstellbar sind und auch sehr flexibel formbar sind. Also ohne die Kunststoffe werden wir in einer modernen Gesellschaft nicht zurechtkommen und die Klimaziele nicht einhalten können.
So, if we still need plastic, experts say we have to rethink the way we recycle it. And some are already finding new ways to turn even the most difficult to recycle waste into something useful.
The journey for us started at that point where we're saying, what do people mean when they say this is not recyclable? But what if we could remanufacture completely different products out of it?
Veena Sashwala challenges the notion that every product must come back in the exact same form when being recycled. She is pioneering microfactories in Australia. Compact modular processing units that transform mixed waste, like electronics, which are usually difficult to recycle, into valuable new materials.
That's made out of 100% recycled plastics. So we've made this in our microfactory out of all the difficult plastics that are there in all the hardware, like IT, printers, and so on. And you can see that in our microfactory, these spools of plastic filaments that are made from 100% recycled materials are able to then be fed into a 3D printer.
The idea is to use this valuable new material for remanufacturing, right at the source.
So, for example, our microfactory is located in the warehouse where our industry partner is basically now taking that plastic and producing these plastic filaments right there in the warehouse itself, in Sydney.
And just like that, a piece that's needed to fix a broken computer or printer, for instance, can be created right there in 3D printers from recycled plastic.
So let's not say the problem is with the raw material. Let's talk about how we can design and redesign our manufacturing process.
Recycling alone cannot solve the plastics crisis, though, as long as we keep producing more and more plastic. That's why policy matters too. What's really needed, according to experts, is effective regulation.
We need global rules. We need rules that actually apply to every country. And even businesses are asking for those global rules.
In August 2025, countries are discussing these global rules at the UN Plastic Treaty negotiations in Geneva.
And Greenpeace is demanding to actually solve the plastic problem that countries reduce their production by 75% by 2040.
But the fossil fuel industry is pushing back.
Countries that are producing oil are not in favor of a strong treaty because we see that with the shift towards renewable energy, a lot of the oil is going to be reducing over time. And plastic is a great outlet for countries that are producing oil. So without surprise, we see all of the large producers of oil trying to water down the treaty, essentially.
So, what kind of regulations should countries agree on and implement to cap plastic production?
There needs to be policies like polluter pay principles, like extended producer responsibility that are implemented.
That means companies are held accountable for the full life cycle of their packaging, not just selling it. After all, experts say these big companies help create the plastic crisis, and they have a responsibility to redesign packaging, cut down on single-use plastics, and invest in real reuse systems. Until they do, the plastic problem will only keep growing, no matter how well we sort our trash. Because in the end, plastic doesn't just disappear. It just gets passed along to the environment, to our bodies, and to future generations.